You know what verse we're in? That I know. Is it recording it? Yeah. Ajnanam timirandasya jnananjana salakaya chakshurunmilitamena tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Madhavaktaya Namo Yam Pravajantamanupetamateta Vaipayana Virakataruajuhava Putriditamayataya Taravoganidras Tam Sarvabhutayam Manimanatosmi Bhavyavina Aparadam Shai Jagtasya Kamadi Tarangamadye Kripamita Sharanam Pratyam Prinde Te Charanarvindam Tavaivasmi Najivami Tam Vina Iti Vikyaya Radhe Tam Nayamam Sharanam Tite. So, Brian, those were prayers to invoke the presence of our gods and goddesses, representatives of our disciplic lineage, to bless the meeting that it becomes successful. So now we're going to utter the prayers that we did yesterday, which is glorification of the Bhagavatam, and praying that the mercy of the Bhagavatam will be upon us. And the Bhagavatam is not a book, but a person, looks like a book. And within that person are other persons, like the author, Vyasadeva, the speaker, Sukadeva and Sutta, or Diksha Gurudev, who did a translation and commentary like that. So before studying the book, we put it on our head and heart and say, "Oh Prabhu, oh Master, you're not a book. You are these personalities yourself." So please, all of you, I have the prayers. Please, all of you, bestow your mercy on us here, so that we can realize, not just hear intellectually, but realize and be free from doubt in spiritual reality, but have doubt in illusion. Okay. Dharma projtitikaitavocha paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastuvamacha vastu shivadam tapajayonamulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikate Kimva Purayarishvara Sadhyo Vidyavadujite Kuchitavi Shushushubhi Stakshana. Completely rejecting all material activities which are materially motivated, religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure at heart. The highest truth is reality, distinguished from the illusion for the welfare of all. And this truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need for any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of the Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord becomes established in the heart. Nigamakopataro vitam palam shugamakaram ritadravasantam vivata bhagavatam rasamalayam ohuraho sikam. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic knowledge, Vedic literatures. It has emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although it was already nectarine juice and already relishable for all, including the buried soul. Uto vacha pravajantam anupetamapeta krisyam vaipayana kataravajuhava vedi tanmayataya tarabhuvaneda Sri Sutta Goswami said, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances to the sage Sukadeva Goswami, who can enter into the hearts of all. That's the nature of a pure devotee. They have the power, the mystic power, the spiritual power, to enter into everyone's heart, know what's going on, and even make adjustments when the time is right." He went away to take up the renounced tour of life, sannyas, leaving aside home without undergoing the sacred thread ceremony. His father, Vyasadeva, who was the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, cried out to him, "Oh, my son," but indeed, only the trees echoed in response to the father. Yagsmanubhavam kila shutisaramekam Adhyatmadipamati satam samsarana karunaya aparara samvyasasano bhayami guru. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him, Sukha, the spiritual master of all the sages, the son of Vyasadeva, who, out of his causeless mercy, compassion for those gross materialists who struggle to cross over the darkest region of material existence, spoke this Purana. Purana means ancient literature. So the Srimad Bhagavatam, the supplement to the Vedas, the queen of Vedic knowledge after personally by his experience. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhira. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest in our struggle to cross over the darkest region of material existence, I offer my obeisances to Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Vishnu, supremast human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of harmony, and to Vyasadeva, the author. Shinvatam Swatata Krishna Parnasravana Kirtana Vedantasto Yajani Vidunoti Sahasana. Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the super soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who's developed an urge to hear his message. So for millions of births, we've been transmigrating throughout so many species of life, committing so many immoral activities, which are giving us so many material reactions and so much suffering. And all that can be erased by having an urge to hear the message and hearing the message from a bona fide source, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Krishna Swadharma Pavate Dharma Jnana Visaha Kalona Star Vishamesha Purana. The Bhagavad Purana, or Srimad Bhagavatam, is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion and knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance of the age of Kali, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, shall get light from this Purana. Why? Because it's as brilliant as the sun. Not when, it says which, in themselves. Virtue is when properly heard and chanted. Yeah. Well, let's say it's relative. The more both are there, the more the effect is there. Anartam upasamam shakshat bhakti yoga suje lokasya janataha vidvans chakra satvita samhita. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasdev compiled the Vedic literature, which is in relation to the Supreme Truth. Namami Devam Karuna Nidanam Kamalavanam Tavitaram Parasam Sara Samudra Setam Vajamahe Swarupam. I bow down to the Lord, Krishna, the ocean of mercy, whose color is like that of a tamal tree, and who appears in this world. I worship him as the bridge crossing over the unfathomable ocean of material existence. We're seeing this in practically every verse. The ocean of material existence, the darkest region of ignorance of material existence. And the Bhagavad, the Srimad Bhagavatam, is non-different from Krishna. That's why we pray like that. Okay. We'll continue. We're on chapter 7. Up till now, Sutta Goswami is explaining to the sages who are wondering how the Bhagavatam came to be, that Vyasadeva, the incarnation of the Lord, was meditating and seeing the future of Kali Yuga, how everyone and everything was becoming degraded. He compiled the Vedic literatures, but he wasn't satisfied. So his spiritual master Narada Muni came, told him that the reason is that he hasn't written the Srimad Bhagavatam yet, which is the best of the Vedic literatures, the essence, the cream. And so he encouraged him to write the Bhagavatam. Then he told his own life how he achieved perfection. Then he left. And then now Vyasadeva is seeing that due to the external energy, the influence, although transcendental to the modes of nature, we think of ourselves as material products, and thus we undergo material miseries. It's just due to illusion, to dream. In a dream, you might be falling off a mountain or being stabbed. You fall. Then you woke up and you were grateful that it was only a dream. So like that. So let's start from text 8. I don't remember which text we're up to. When are you ready? Chapter 7. All right. So then, now there's more dialogue between the sages of Naimisharanya, the 88,000 sages headed by Shonaka, and Sutta Goswami, who's reciting all this, that Vyasdev was already situated in self-realization. Sorry, his son, Sukadeva, like he left home, he stayed in the womb for 12 years and heard the Bhagavatam in the womb. Then he just left. He didn't want to be in Maya. He went to the forest and he spoke the Bhagavatam. So the sages are asking Sutta Goswami, since he was already established in self-realization, how come he underwent the study of such a vast literature like the Bhagavatam? Then Sutta answered that there are many self-realized souls, but the Bhagavatam is above, because it's the perfection of self-realization, because it's about the Supreme Lord. And so even the self-realized soul comes up higher. So Sukadeva was not only the son of Vyasdev, who was the incarnation of God, not only transcendently powerful, but he was also very dear to devotees. Thus, he underwent the study of this great narration for the benefit of all. We just read that. Sutta Goswami is offering obeisances to this Sukadeva, who out of his great compassion spoke this Bhagavad Purana. So now Sutta Goswami thus addressed the rishis headed by Shonaka. Now I shall begin the transcendental narration of Lord Sri Krishna and topics of the birth, activities, and deliverance of King Parikshit. Parikshit was the one who heard the Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami, the sage among the kings, as well as topics of the renunciation of the worldly order by the sons of Pandu. Parikshit Maharaj was the grandson, who was the son of Arjuna, who was one of the sons of Pandu. Pandu is the name of the father of the 5 sons. Parikshit Maharaj was the grandson, actually, of Arjuna. So he's a descendant of this famous Pandava family who will be finding out how they give up all their worldly attachments. He's a disciple of Sukadeva Goswami, who's a disciple and son of Vyasdev. He's heading this assembly.
Actually, follow up on that.
Sutta in those days. And that is the large assembly. Parikshit Maharaj, there was a majorly big assembly of thousands of sages from all over the, not only all over the world, but all over the universe. So now we're going to be hearing about Pandavas, the grandparents, grand uncles of Maharaj Parikshit. A big family clan. Yadamride Kauravashvin Jayanam Vire Swato Yangateshu Rodaveda Gadadimrisa Bhagnoradande Udarashtraputre Artur Priyamdro Nir Iti Smapasyam Krishna Siddham Swatam Siddham Si Aharadve priyam evatasya jugupsitaka vigarayante. The respective warriors of both camps, namely the Kauravas and the Pandavas, were killed in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and the dead warriors obtained their deserved destinations. That is, some went to heaven, some went to hell, some went back to Godhead. And when the son of Dhritarashtra fell down lamenting, his spine broken, being beaten by the club of Bhishma, he was a bad guy, really bad. He kept trying to kill the Pandavas, keep the Pandavas. He made a loaded dice game to cheat them out of their whole kingdom. But it was all Krishna's arrangement so that Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. And so that the Pandavas could be glorified by their glorious deeds in response to the evil person. The son of Dronacharya, Aswatthama, beheaded the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi. Draupadi is the wife of all 5 Pandavas. And every sentence we're reading, each has a massive pastime around it. We'll gradually become familiar. So he killed the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi and delivered the heads as a prize to his master, that is Duryodhana, the evil person, foolishly thinking that he would be pleased. Duryodhana, however, disapproved of the heinous act, and he was not pleased. At least he didn't disapprove because he didn't want to kill the Pandavas, but the son of Drona, Aswatthama, told him that these are the 5 heads of the Pandavas. He was dying anyway because he was beaten by the leg by Bhishma, by Bhima. So he was dying anyway. So Ashwatthama, who was on his side of the war, the bad guy's side, he thought, let me please him by killing the 5 sons of the Pandavas. So he told them that these are the 5 Pandavas. But like in those days, warriors have the strength of 10,000 elephants. So he said, oh good, the heads of the Pandavas. And he wanted to crush them. They were so easily crushed that he was disappointed. So these are the heads of the Pandavas. They're the heads of the Pandavas' boys. And now there's no future to succeed our generation. So he died in misery. Wasn't pleased. No, the actual 5 Pandavas were victorious and stayed alive. But many people on both sides died. 640 million men died, and so many millions missing. But they all got their destinations, and anyone who was standing there on the battlefield and saw the Lord, he got higher planets or liberation. Everyone did good. And the very evil Duryodhana, he's a partial manifestation of Lord Shiva. So even he was controlled by a higher force to bring out the glory of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, and Pandavas. Draupadi, the mother of the 5 children of the Pandavas, after hearing of the massacre of her sons, began to cry in distress with eyes full of tears. Trying to pacify her in her great loss, Arjuna, who is one of the 5 Pandavas, spoke to her thus. Vidasuchaste pram evadre yadbrahma bandhus atmaniya kadeva uktai vishikar Why are we talking about the Pandavas all of a sudden? When we were just talking about Vyasdev and compiling the Srimad Bhagavatam. No, we began chapter 7, which was after Narada left. Vyasadeva started meditating in his cottage by the river Saraswati, which was surrounded by berry trees. And he saw that due to the external energy, the living entity, though transcendental, is suffering just due to ignorance. So then, but nobody knows that we're not these bodies, we're not really touched by suffering. So then he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam, compiled it on Narada's order. Then Sutta starts glorifying the Bhagavatam, and simply by hearing the messages of Bhagavatam, one becomes free from what? Anchoring, lamentation, and fear. So then he taught it to his son, Sukadeva Goswami. And then Shonaka asked, why did Sukadeva, since he was already self-realized, why did he undertake a study of the Bhagavatam? What was the need? Then Sutta Goswami replied, well, even though he was self-realized, he wasn't on the top of the grade because he wasn't pure devotee of Krishna. He just realized his own soul is different from the body. Matter is different from spirit, but he wasn't situated in unavoided devotion. Therefore, he heard the Bhagavatam. But he really was a pure devotee. He was just acting like an impersonalist. So we can see how an impersonalist becomes a personalist through association activities. How is he always a pure devotee? Because he's the parrot of Radharani in the spiritual world. Then he came here with Krishna and Radha and their associates. Then Radha and Krishna told this parrot, so we're all going back to our abode now, when Krishna left, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. You stay here because you need to preach our glories. So then Sukadeva flew around and heard the Bhagavatam from Lord Shiva as he was standing on a tree branch. And then he was imitating the voice of Lord Shiva's wife. That was like your pants. You had the Shiva mantras on your pants the other night. So Lord Shiva, he's a great devotee of Krishna. There's a lot of transcendental duties. Anyway, so he was reciting the Bhagavatam to his wife Parvati, and there were relatively what sounded like boring parts of it, and so she was falling asleep. But Sukadeva the bird, wanted him to continue. So you know how parrots imitate people. So in her voice, he kept saying, very good, go on. So Vyasadeva, Lord Shiva kept going. And then at the end, she woke up. The end was interesting. And then he said, what happened? I fell asleep. He said, and who was it who was saying very good, continue? So he looked around and he saw this bird. And he thought, no unauthorized person is allowed to hear the Bhagavatam. So then he was running after him with his trident. And then Sukadeva flew into the ashram of Vyasadeva. This is how he became his son. And he flew into the mouth of Vyasadeva's wife. Because she wasn't falling asleep. She was loving it. He flew into her mouth and into her womb. And he stayed there for 12 years. And then finally Vyasadeva said, look, don't keep giving you any suffering like this, come out. He said, I'm not going to come out because I don't want to be in life. He said, I bless you that you won't be in life. He said, I don't believe you. If Krishna comes personally, then I'll believe it. So then Vyasadeva called for Krishna. Krishna came and said, yes, I will protect Maya. So then he came out. He left and came back after some time. And again, heard the Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna, Ramesh, welcome. Welcome, have a seat. Okay, so where are we? Oh yeah, so then Shiva came in running with his trident, and Vyasadeva said, what's going on? He said, well, I have to kill that bird because no one unauthorized is allowed to hear the Bhagavatam. Then Vyasadeva said, well, what happens if somebody hears the Bhagavatam? So then Shiva said, well, he becomes immortal. He said, so if he's immortal, how can you kill him? So then they both laughed. Actually, Lord Shiva didn't kill him. It was just a pastime to make this all happen. People. Anyway, so he was first, and he played the role of being an impersonalist, and he heard the Bhagavatam, and he became a great devotee. And then he spoke the Bhagavatam to his disciple, King Parikshit. So that was the question by the sages, how did he happen, since he was already self-realized? Then Suta's answering that, okay, so now I explained how he why he studied the Bhagavatam. So now I'm going to begin the transcendental narration of Krishna and the topics of the birth, activities, and deliverance of King Parikshit. Because King Parikshit's the one who heard the Bhagavatam. And I'm also going to tell you about the renunciation of the Pandavas, who are the cousins of Krishna. And Arjuna is the grandfather of Maharaj Parikshit. So therefore, we're hearing about the devotees of the Lord, because hearing about the devotees of the Lord, the Pandavas, is just as purifying as hearing about the Lord. So, what we got up to is the son of Dronacharya, who was on the bad guy side. But he wasn't a bad guy, but so many political things happened. This all took place 5,000 years ago. And it's all relation to the class you heard last night, which was the Bhagavad Gita, because you heard some backstory there too. So, Aswatthama, the son of Dronacharya, killed the 5 sleeping sons. Can you imagine how heinous that is? Children and sleeping. They chopped off their heads. And then the person he wanted to please by the whole thing, Duryodhana, wasn't even pleased. So then, let's see what happens. So then when Draupadi, the wife of the Pandavas, saw all this, she began weeping uncontrollably. And then Arjuna, her husband, said this to her. That's what we're up to now. Okay? Her son, Kunti's, is Pandava's mother. Draupadi is Pandava's wife. Gradually it will all become natural. I'm sure there already is, if you just look on Google. Family tree. So now Arjuna is speaking to, Arjuna is also the father of the 5 sleeping sons. Tada suchaste pramrajami bhajre yad brahmadando akanina kadiva muktar vishikar vadram. Oh, gentle lady, my wife, Draupadi, when I present to you the head of that Brahmana, after beheading him with the arrows from my Gandiva bow, I shall then wipe the tears from your eyes and pacify you. Then, after burning your sons' bodies, you can take your bath standing on his head. Iti priyam bhagu vichitya jampai sashanta vayu ashita sita anpa sita dhanva nidvaja. Arjuna, who was guided by the infallible Lord as friend and driver, thus satisfied the dear lady with such statements. Then he dressed in armor and armed himself with furious weapons, and getting into his chariot, he set out to follow Aswatthama, the son of his martial teacher. Apatantam Manaratena Rajavat Prana Pariskar Urvyam Yava Aswatthama, the murderer of the princes, seeing from a great distance Arjuna coming at him with great speed, fled in his chariot, panic-stricken, just to save his life, as Brahma fled in fear of Lord Shiva. Oh, let's see what happened. Brahma, Shiva is the son of Brahma. So let's read the purport. According to the reading matter, either Ka or Arka in this verse, there are two references in the Puranas. Ka means Brahma, who once became allured by his daughter and began to follow him, which infuriated Shiva, who attacked Brahma with his trident. Brahma fled in fear of his life. As far as Arka is concerned, there's a reference in the Vaman Purana. There was a demon named Vidyunmali, who was gifted with a glowing golden airplane, which traveled to the back of the sun, and night disappeared because of the glowing effulgence of the plane. Thus the sun god became angry, and with his virulent rays he melted the plane. This enraged Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva then attacked the sun god, who fled away and at last fell down Kashi, Varanasi. The place became known as Lokarta. These are all pastimes. The sun god's never going to be afraid of anything. Brahma's never going to be. We all perform these human-like pastimes in order to set us in another realm, to see how pure devotees act. So when the son of a Brahmana is used purposefully, because the son of a Brahmana is not automatically a Brahmana. Or Brahma Bandhu is not a Brahman. When he saw the horses were tired, his horses, he considered that there was no alternative for protection outside his using his ultimate weapon, the ultimate weapon, the Brahmastra. Brahmastra is a nuclear weapon just like we have now, but these nuclear weapons, they just kill a whole country. There's no particular target, but that one could go even into a womb and kill a person in the womb without hurting anybody else. Huh? Super specific, yeah. Now we're going to find out the connection with everything with Maharaj Pariksit. So since his life was in danger, let's give a few sentences. He touched water in sanctity and concentrated upon the chanting of the hymns for throwing nuclear weapons, although he did not know how to withdraw the weapon. Read the purport on that, because that's interesting. The subtle forms of material activities are finer than grosser methods of material manipulation. Such subtle forms of material activities are affected through purification of sound. That's why he said the mantras for throwing the nuclear weapon. The same, but it acts like a nuclear weapon. The same method is adopted here by chanting hymns to act as nuclear weapons. Thereupon a glaring light spread in all directions. It was so fierce that Arjuna thought his own life was in danger. And so he began to address Krishna. Oh, my Lord Sri Krishna, you are the almighty personality of Godhead. There's no limit to your different energies. Therefore, only you are competent to instill fearlessness in the hearts of your devotees. That's a very good point, because in every way, in all ways, we're always afraid to one degree or another. So if we want to be fearless, hear the Bhagavatam, hear about Krishna, pray to Krishna, think of Krishna, chant Hare Krishna. Everyone in the flames of material miseries can find a path of liberation. In you only is no other way. For the original personality of Godhead who expands himself over the creations and is transcendental to material energy, you have cast away the effects of material energy by dint of your spiritual potency. You are always situated in eternal bliss and transcendental knowledge. And yet, though you are beyond the purview of material energy, you execute the four principles of liberation characterized by religion and so on for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. Thus, you descend as an incarnation to remove the burden of the world and to benefit your friends, especially those who are your exclusive devotees and are constantly wrapped in meditation of you. O Lord of Lords, how is it that this dangerous effulgence is spreading all around? Where does it come from? I don't understand. The Lord said, know for me that this is the act of the son of Jonah. He has thrown the hymns of nuclear energy Brahmastra, and he does not know how to retract the glare. He has helplessly done this, being afraid of imminent death. Lord June, only another Brahmastra can counteract this weapon. Since you are expert in military science, subdue this weapon's glare with the power of your own weapon. Amazing, if we become devotees, Krishna just tells us everything, how or what. Right? Uta Goswami said, so he's still speaking to the sages. Hearing this from the personality of Godhead, Arjuna touched water for purification, and after circumambulating Krishna, he cast his Brahmastra weapon to counter the other one. When the rays of the two Brahmastras combined, a great circle of fire, like the disk of the sun, covered all outer space and the whole firmament of planets. All the population of the three worlds was scorched by the combined heat of the weapons. Everyone was reminded of the Samvartika fire, which takes place at the time of annihilation of the whole universe. Thus, seeing the disturbance of the general populace in the imminent destruction of the planets, Arjuna at once retracted both Brahmastra weapons as Krishna desired. Arjuna, his eyes blazing in anger like two red bowls of copper, dexterously arrested the son of Gautami, which means the son of Dronacharya, and bound him with the ropes like an animal. See, his mother, Dronacharya's wife, is Kripi, and she was born from the family of great sage named Gautama. So he's the son of Gautama. He's actually not, he's the great grandson of something. So even though he's the son of the great Kshatriya sage, Dronacharya, who was the marshal, the military teacher of both the Pandavas and the Kurus when they were young. And although he comes from a great lineage, because he had become degraded to a lower status of life by his heinous acts, it was proper to treat him like an animal and not like a Brahmana, to bind him. And after binding Aswatthama, Arjuna wanted to take him to the military camp. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, looking on with his lotus eyes, spoke to Arjuna in an angry mood. Krishna said, Arjuna, we should not show mercy by releasing this relative of a Brahman, Brahma Bandhu. Means he's not a Brahmin, he's called a relative of Brahman. for he has killed innocent boys in their sleep. The person who knows the principle of religion does not kill an enemy who is careless, intoxicated, insane, asleep, afraid, or devoid of his chariot. Nor does he kill a boy, a woman, a foolish creature, or a surrendered soul. A cruel and wretched person who maintains his existence at the cost of others' lives deserves to be killed for his own well-being, otherwise he will go down by his actions. I'm going to see, let's see the purport. A life for a life is just punishment for a person who cruelly and shamelessly lives at the cost of another's life. Political morality is to punish a person by a death sentence in order to save him from going to hell. That a murderer is condemned to death sentence by the state is good for the culprit, because in his next life he will not have to suffer for his act of murder. Such a death sentence for the murderer is the lowest possible punishment offered. So we think that the government thinks it's being nice now by not having a death sentence. On the principle of life for life. Then they get purified of their sin, so much so that they're eligible for being promoted to the planets of heaven. According to Manu, the great author of civic codes and religious principles, even the killer of an animal is to be considered a murderer, because animal food is never meant for a civilized man, whose prime duty is to prepare himself for going back to diet. He says that the act of killing an animal is a regular conspiracy on the party of sinners, and all of them are liable to be punished as murderers, exactly like a party of conspirators who kill a human being combinedly. One who gives permission to kill the animal, one who kills the animal, who sells the slaughtered animal, who cooks the animal, who distributes the animal, the food, so-called food, and at last who eats it, they're all murderers, and all of them are liable to be punished by the laws of nature. Yeah.
There's like sort of like what would be considered an animal, or is it
Any animal. Fish, yeah. But specifically the cow. I mean, most heinously the cow. You can figure out there are natural ways to get rid of them. And one easy way is to cover the food in containers rather than just plastic bags. Clean up your house. Yeah. Like Gurudev was saying, even a bug. We didn't create the bug, really. No life, no right to kill it. Furthermore, I've personally heard promise Draupadi he would bring forth the head of the killer of their sons. This man is an assassin and murderer of family members. Not only that, but he is also dissatisfied as master. He's but burnt remnants of his family. Kill him immediately. Sutta Goswami said, although Krishna, who was examining Arjuna in religion, encouraged Arjuna to kill the son of Dronacharya, Arjuna, a great soul, did not like the idea of killing him, although Aswatthama was a heinous murderer of Arjuna's family members. Let's see why. After reaching his own camp, Arjuna, along with his dear friend and charioteer Krishna, entrusted the murderer unto his dear wife, who was lamenting for her murdered sons. Sutta Goswami said, Draupadi then saw Aswatthama, who was bound with ropes like an animal, and silent for having enacted the most inglorious murder. Due to her female nature, and due to her being naturally good and well behaved, she showed him due respects as a Brahmin. Can you imagine? by his guru's will. And it said here in the previous purport that Krishna was testing Arjuna. Let's read it again. Although Krishna was examining Arjuna in religion, seeing how he'd be with religious principles, encouraged Arjuna to kill him. I'm trying to see what if it says here in the purport what Krishna was thinking. So here it says in the purport, Krishna encouraged Arjuna outwardly just to test Arjuna's sense of duty. It is not that Arjuna was incomplete in his sense of duty, nor was Krishna unaware of Arjuna's sense of duty. But Krishna puts many of his pure devotees to the test just to magnify their sense of duty. Well, the thing is, because these are the pastimes of all the pure devotees for the purpose of teaching us something. So everything was ultimately Krishna. And sometimes it's like a show, like a magic show. Like, huh? Oh, that's nice. Like, for example, Krishna's relatives, after Krishna left, then there was I mean, there's so many stories in each story. For some reason, the relatives, the big dynasty of Krishna, drank some rice wine, and they got intoxicated and all killed each other. But they didn't really kill each other. It was like a magic show in order to have them go back to their own abodes. And the reason that happened, it's a whole other pastime, is that Krishna's son, Samba, grandson, Samba, they were trying to trick these sages by putting a lump of iron, and he dressed up as a girl, and he put a lump of iron under his sari, and he said, so is this girl going to get a boy or a girl? This lady going to get a boy. So Durvasa, who is also Krishna's pure devotee, but he acts angry sometimes and curses just to bring out the glory of the devotee. So he said that embryo, which he knew was, because you can't cheat great sages, which he knew was a lump of iron, would be the cause of all of your death. So then they got scared and they threw away and buried the lump of iron. But then the iron grew all over the place like big swords. And then by the will of Krishna, they all drank this rice wine. And then they took the swords and killed each other. But Gurudev explained that it was like a magic show. And he gave the example of mundane magicians. Now this is going to amaze you. And by hearing this, you can imagine how magical Krishna is, his pastime. So he told the story of two magicians. The first one he told was a family, a husband, a wife, and two sons. And so they did this magic act for the king and queen and their associates in the palace. And she was tight roping, walking on a tightrope, carrying so many pots and dancing. And then the king and queen gave her a necklace. And so then two sons started fighting over the necklace. And they all had swords for their magic act. So they cut off each other's head simultaneously. And the father saw the two sons dead, and so he cut off his own head, and she cut off her own head. The wife who was dancing. And so the king and queen, you can imagine how they felt. So then they got a letter the next day from the family. It said, you thought we were dead, but we're not. So you gave us a present for the previous magic show, but we didn't get a present for this one. If you don't believe us, you can come over to our house. So the king and queen came, and the family gave them cards, everything.
Wow.
They even swept up the bodies of everybody's body. So then an even greater magician, if you can imagine, I forget his name, but if I heard it, I would know it. So he was so famous that all these big politicians and government men, they would come to his magic show. He said, be there exactly at 5. So they came, and he wasn't there. They waited and waited. They looked at their watch. Maybe it was 4, I forget, 4 or 5. Kept looking at their watch. Time was passing, and the guy wasn't there. And they were getting more and more angry. Doesn't he realize we're important people here? So finally, when he came nonchalantly walked out on stage, they was furious. How dare you do that to us? What's the matter? You said that we should be there at 4, and it's already 5. 5? Look at your watches, and it was 4. That was smart. So they said, if that's possible for humans, let's speak of God.
Wow.
Uh-oh, time's up. So we're going to leave in this suspenseful moment.
Yeah.
We are on text, everybody can remember, 40. And we have a few days in between now and the next class, which will be on Tuesday. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday is the 4th day. We are left in suspense. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Panchakopachu Vyashtrakabisandavicha Patitanam Paramogya Vaishnava. And on Tuesday, we'll find out what this has to do with Parikit hearing the Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami. It's another interesting feature. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Nitya Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitya Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sukadeva Goswami ki jai. Krishna